All right, after grinding Stadium on launch day, playing pretty much nothing but Reinhardt, I have found the perfect Reinhardt build. While it's perfect for me, it's definitely not for people who want to play slow. This build is all about aggression, okay? You're going to be swinging your hammer and using your shield both to heal you while you're in the fight, and you should be rolling over the enemy. Like I said, if you want to play slow, this is not the build for you. You should be charging up to the enemy and then beating them into the dirt. While this build is all about aggression, there is sustain built in, so you're not going to be inting, hopefully. There are powers and items that you can choose very carefully to make sure you don't int. And if you do int, you're at least going to be taking the whole enemy team with you. Okay, so let's go over the build. First and foremost, our first power is always going to be smashing. When you deal damage with Rocket Hammer, gain 5% move speed and 4% weapon lifesteal for 3 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. This is the core of the build, okay? This is what the build is all about. I've tried taking the other powers first in this build, and it just doesn't work as well. This one is just too strong. It gives you too many stats and too much lifesteal not to take. All right, so this is the core of the build, and let me show you what items you're gonna buy first. So typically, I like to take one item from survival. That can either be field rations while on the objective, restore 8 health every 1 second, or armored vest, or first aid kit, which is reduce the time before your life begins generating by 33% and you get to 25 shields. It's really up to you, but I have been taking field rations lately. I like it more. I think the healing is great, and you're just going to be on the point anyway in Stadium. The rounds are so short, you really kind of have to be a lot of the time. Okay, and then the other starting item that you'll grab, so we'll grab field rations, and then the other item that you would grab, the other two, are going to be any of these 3 up top. Now, Compensator, I think, is rather weak because it gives you 5% weapon power on Rocket Hammer. Well, 5% of, I think, the 75 damage Reinhardt does is like 3 extra damage, which is really not making that much of a difference. However, 10% more lifesteal and 5% attack speed with weapon grease are both great. So this is normally my starting build here for Hammer Time. That's what we're calling this build, the Hammer Time build. Let's go over the rest of the powers, and then I'll show you what the end game build looks like and the items you can buy in between. Okay, so next, you're probably gonna get Feeling the Burn. Feeling the Burn is every 3rd Rocket Hammer swing applies burn, dealing 30% of Rocket Hammer's damage over 2 seconds. This is a great item, gives you more damage. You're all about swinging your hammer, so you're gonna get this to proc all of the time. I normally take it second. Now, if you're getting absolutely rolled and you feel like you need some sustain, you can take Wilhelm Wagon second. This is either going to be your 2nd or 3rd power. While Barrier Field is deployed, you heal for 15% of the damage it mitigates and gain 30% move speed. The move speed is really powerful, and the healing that you get from this allows you to stay in the fight longer. Always start with smashing, then your choice between Wilhelm Wagon and Feeling the Burn. I think you can already see how these items, or these powers rather, synergize with one another. You go in, you swing your hammer a bunch with smashing, get the weapon lifesteal, you're swinging it, you're doing the burn, and then you get low, you pop the shield, you use the 30% move speed to back away, reposition so you can heal. Okay, so let's say that, you know, we're in the 7th round and you need to get your 4th power. It's really kind of dealer's choice here. I haven't found any power that I super love that synergizes with this. Normally, I've been taking Barrier Reconstruction or Impact Burst. Neither one are great with the build. However, I do think that Barrier Reconstruction is just a little bit better because when you deal damage with Rocket Hammer or Fire Strike, you're going to be dealing a ton of damage with Rocket Hammer. You restore health to your barrier equal to 10% of its max health. So this ensures that you always have your barrier to back up with the Wilhelm Wagon, which is important because it's part of the loop of the build. Okay, so let's go over endgame items, and then we can talk about the items you'll buy in between to get there and some situational stuff. Okay, so the core of the build, Gloom Gauntlet in the Survival tab, costs 9,500, 50 armor, 15% melee damage, which applies to your Rocket Hammer. Melee damage grants 10% move speed and restores 5% of max health over 2 seconds. This is huge. This plays into exactly what you want to do with this build, so it's a crucial take. The order that you take these in is going to vary a little bit depending on the situation of the game. However, this is a great first pick if you don't have enough money to buy some of the other items, or you want that move speed and sustain. Okay, next, booster jets. This is a must-have in this build. This does exactly what you want to do. Swing the hammer as much as possible. 20% attack speed is fantastic. It's hard to ask for more. And when you use an ability, you gain 20% move speed for 2 seconds. So you come in, you swing your hammer, you're swinging it, you get low, pop the shield, throw a fire strike out, and now you've got more move speed on top of the 30% you already have to chase someone down or reposition. I mean, it's it just gives you everything you could possibly want in this build. All right, after that, we have Nebula Conduit, which is in survival. This, I think, is one of the best items in the game, and if you're not taking it on these brawly bruiser characters, then I think you're just making a horrible mistake. Nebula Conduit is very similar to Death's Dance if you've played League of Legends, and what it does is essentially causes damage to apply to you over a time period, which means that the damage is delayed, essentially. So, Nebula Conduit, 50 health, 10% rocket hammer power, which you want, because we're swinging our hammer all the time, and prevent 15% of incoming damage, and instead take that prevented damage over 3 seconds. This just gives you an insane amount of sustain. This item is so good, I'll often buy it first. As the game goes on, people are going to do insane damage. Things are just going to get more and more absurd, so I really like this item. Taking it early gets it out of the way, makes you way stronger than anybody else in the lobby if you can afford it on, say, like round 2 or round 3. So, really good item. Highly suggest taking every single game. I don't think there's a single game I've not taken it. Those are our core 3 items. From here, I've played around with a lot of stuff, and you really have some choices here. So first, let's talk about a rare that is really valuable that sometimes you just need regardless of what else is going on. This is a Rein exclusive item, Ironclad Cleats. So 25 armor, 5% weapon power, and 40% knockback resistance. That 40% knockback resistance is really what we're buying this for. It also gives us weapon power, which we want, gives us armor, which is nice. But the knockback resistance is just really hard to beat. And into Mei, when she's snowballing you over and over again, or an Orisa who's just knocking you around all the time, it's an incredibly useful item. So even though it is just a rare, don't sleep on it. Sometimes you are going to have to buy it and hold on to it for the majority, if not the whole game. Okay, then we also have the Eye of the Spider. This is, you got to be really high rolling to buy this item. However, 25% weapon damage is just crazy. The 10% increased damage to enemies below 30% life is nice. It's going to almost guarantee that you kill someone who's 30% below health with your hammer. But again, you got to be high rolling. If you can get it, I would buy it because the weapon damage is huge. Next, you can buy, I don't know how to say this, the reduction field, 50 armor. When you take damage, gain 0.5% damage reduction for 1 second, stacking up to 20 times. It's powerful, gives you even more damage reduction. I don't find that you need much more sustain though. So in general, I'm not taking those. To close off the build though, Weapon Jammer is another good option. If somebody is just destroying you with attack speed, like Reaper, for example, he has that one power where when he's in range, a certain range, he gets more attack speed the longer he shoots or whatever. So this is good to kind of shut that down. Codebreaker is another great option. 15% weapon power, rocket hammer, again, and ignores 50% of armor damage reduction. So this can be helpful to kind of chew through a D.Va or an Orisa. However, your weapon doesn't really take that much reduction from armor because of how armor works. So situational. All right, this again, you know, our build is getting kind of expensive. I have pretty much always had money though to buy most of this stuff. So next we're going to talk about Plan Z. Plan Z is a great item and it's Reinhardt exclusive. 10% weapon power, which is great. We want that stuff. And gain 3% attack speed every 100 missing life up to 30%. So this is a big deal for Reinhardt. This is one of the key items to this build. However, I think it's less important than these other ones. So if you're swinging enough and healing, you will do enough damage to kill people eventually. So it's important to have both attack speed and weapon power, and this item gives you just that. Okay, now you'll notice that Reinhardt doesn't have ammo, he can't crit, so a lot of these items actually aren't that helpful to him. His options are more limited than some of the other heroes. However, I do like 3-tap Tommy Gun. It gives us ability power, which we don't really care about in this build. However, it does give us 10% attack speed, which we care a lot about. And after using an ability, your next 3 instances of weapon damage deal additional damage equal to 3% of the target's life. So this just gives you more damage and more attack speed, which is all stuff that we want. I think it's a great pickup and I often build it. Okay, now to get 6 epic items in the final round, you typically have to be high rolling pretty hard. So, you know, I doubt you're really gonna be here very often. But if you are in this situation, you really just wanna prioritize weapon power or attack speed. Dampener Grip is not bad. I take it sometimes. However, we don't really care about the ability power. And we're going to be dealing damage with our rocket hammer all the time, but we don't really need our cooldowns reduced that much because we're not using our cooldowns that often. However, it's another great option. So this is what I would say is pretty much your final build here. Maybe we can take Dampener Grip off for Eye of the Spider. I have managed to high roll this build before, and it's insane. You're just going to be curb stomping people. It's pretty ridiculous. So we'll run through it one more time, and then I'll show you things you can buy to get from our measly 3 starting items to here. So we have Smashing, which gives you lifesteal and move speed every time you swing the hammer up to 5 times. We do burn damage every 3rd swing. We have the Barrier Field that we can pop up that will give us healing for 15% of the damage it mitigates and give us move speed. And we have, when you deal damage with Rocket Hammer or Fire Strike, we restore health to the barrier to make sure we always have our, what is essentially a get out of jail free card. For items, we're running Gloom Gauntlet, armor, melee damage, move speed, restores health. Then we're running Booster Jets, which is a must-have item, 20% attack speed. When you use an ability, gain 20% move speed. Nebula Conduit, 50 health, 10 weapon power, prevents 15% of incoming damage, which basically means that you live forever, but it gets applied over 3 seconds. Plan Z, 10% weapon power, 3% attack speed for every 100 missing life, and 3-tap Tommy Gun, ability power, which we don't care about, but attack speed. And after using an ability, our next 3 instances of weapon damage deal additional damage equal to 3% of the target's life. And Eye of the Spider, 25% weapon power, deal 10% increased damage to enemies below 30% life. This is the build. This is the Hammer Time build. Now, let's go over how you get there. You can pretty much ignore the ability tab. There's almost never any reason to buy anything from it because we are not buffing our abilities in almost any way. For survival, I think Vitality, gain 10 armor, convert 100 health into armor is a fantastic mid option to bridge the gap. We'll call them bridge options here. Crusader Hydraulics, 25 armor. While you have armor, take 10% reduced weapon damage. These two together give you a ridiculous amount of sustain that you might kind of overlook in the beginning. As you play more, you'll realize how powerful these two as a combo are. If you could only take one, it's really going to depend on the situation. Do you need the more armor, or do you want to make sure that you're taking less damage? I tend to bias towards Crusader Hydraulics. However, it costs 500 more, so sometimes you're not going to be able to buy it. Next, we have Aftermarket Firing Pin. This is a fantastic item for us. Move speed and attack speed are things that we really, really want. So being able to pick them up is huge for us. And it's kind of cheap. It's sort of like a discount version of some of these other items. Okay, again, we talked about Ironclad Cleats. This is another great bridge option. However, sometimes you're just going to hang on to it because it's that good. In survival, there is Rocket Boots. So Rocket Boots will allow you to hold crouch and increase the height of your jump to 200%. This can help you get to some high grounds. I have not found it that useful. I've never really even taken it. There's too many other valuable things that you need. You can't afford to take this a lot of the time, it feels like. If you want to do something crazy with this build, you can take Griffin Glider, which gives you health, ability, lifesteal, which we don't care about, but you can fly during charge. This makes you incredibly mobile. However, I haven't found that you need this very often. Most of the time you have an insane amount of move speed with all the other items combined and powers and stuff that you're just going to make it to the enemy anyway. And there's like Lucios and Junos and stuff in here and all sorts of crazy stuff going on. So you're often moving ridiculously fast anyway. Okay, next cushion padding here is 25 shields, negative 40% incoming negative effect duration. This means that when you get hit with a stun or a sleep or something like that, it's going to last for a shorter amount of time. And when affected by stun, sleep, or hinder, restore 10% of your max life over 3 seconds. So if you're just getting CC'd to hell, this is a great option for you to take. If you're getting specifically antied a lot, you can take Crusader's Cure, 25 health, and using charge cleanses all negative effects. This can really bail you out of a lot of situations. And our build really relies on lifesteal, so it can be very helpful to take. Okay, next we have Mecha Z. I think this is one of the weaker options on the list. I would rather take the combo of Vitality and Crusader Hydraulics. However, you can just take a flat 8% increase to health, armor, and shields. You're not really going to have any shields, but 8% health and armor is helpful. Okay, next we have Techno Leech. This is a fantastic item for us. We're all about weapon lifesteal and all about weapon power. So I take this one pretty often. If you can afford it, Talon Modification Module is also very powerful. Remember, we care about both attack speed and damage, so either item is very helpful here. Okay, so I'll walk you through quickly what a typical build path will look like. We'll reset the build here and we'll start from the beginning. So we're taking Smashing. We're going to take Plasma Converter, Weapon Grease, and then we'll take First Aid Kit this time. I'm also a fan of this item. Being able to pop your shield up and start healing for your own life regen after a shorter amount of time is helpful. Okay, round 2. Maybe we sell everything here, right? And then we're just going to buy, say, Nebula Conduit or booster jets. It might seem crazy to sell everything for these, but they are just that powerful, especially in combination with your power. Okay, round 3, we're gonna take Feeling the Burn. Typically have enough after every round to buy a new epic and an adjacent item. But let's say we got rolled that round for some reason, you know, our soldier's eating glue or something. So instead, we're worried about getting rolled. We already have a lot of attack speed, so we're gonna go ahead and take Vitality and Crusader Hydraulics. Okay, round 4, get another, you know, roughly 10,000 here. So we are gonna take Negative Conduit. It's a fantastic item for us. Maybe we can sell these and in combination with that, get Gloom Gauntlet. This is typically how things are gonna look for you. Okay, round 5, we're taking Wilhelm Wagon. It's a time that we need this extra sustain. People are starting to do insane damage. From here, maybe we want Aftermarket Firing Pin for even more attack speed and damage, and maybe we'll take Talon Modification Module. And because of the nature of Stadium, all of this is really variable. That you're gonna have a lot of options and things to choose from. You're gonna need to be countering builds and all of that stuff. I like this build because you don't really have to worry too much about any of that. You really just wanna swing your hammer and do as much damage as possible. Let's say we have enough for Plan Z2 here, you know. And finally, we can take Barrier Reconstruction, sell all of this. Oh, I didn't mean to sell Plan Z. I Plan Z back. Okay, and maybe you have enough for, I don't know, Eye of the Spider and Techno Leech, you know, but you'll see where we're prioritizing attack damage, weapon lifesteal, and attack speed to really get this build off the ground. And yeah, this is the Hammer Time build. If you enjoyed this build video, stay tuned. We're gonna be putting a ton of stuff just like this out all the time. I'm playing Stadium every single day right now to find these perfect builds, to find what's fun and functional. So thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you in game.